There are going to be people that are not on your journey with you that don't understand how you went from A to Z because they weren't with you, and they weren't supposed to go with you. Stop trying to bring people that were not supposed to come with you. There's only a small few that are supposed to come with you along the journey, and it's because they started with you at point A and they're going to go with you to point Z. And maybe they meet you along the way at point L or whatever, and then they come back with you still. But you're trying to drag people that are from point A to point Z with you, and they don't want to go. They don't care. Or they started at point A, they see you at point Z, and you come back to the location where you were at point A at, and they're like, I don't care. This is fake. This isn't even who you are. Like, you switched up on us. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Hood Soft Life podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina, and in this podcast, we talk about navigating the challenges that come with growing up in the hood and leaving those challenges behind for a soft life. Growing up in the hood comes with its own set of challenges. But what people don't tend to tell you is not only do those challenges follow you once you've made it out physically, but they tend to intensify. So I'm bringing you along on my journey. I'm going to be honest with you about the struggles and the lessons that I'm learning to achieve a soft life. In this episode, we're going to be talking about how sometimes where you are isn't where you're best received and how to handle that. So let's get started. First of all, y'all, let's just quickly talk about my background. I should have done this to begin with. This looks so much better than what I originally had. And, you know, like the pictures are nice and neat and it gives what I was going for in the first place, but I didn't have enough pictures and I just couldn't keep them straight. This was the original art that my apartment came with. If you don't know, I moved to DC and I'm originally from Connecticut, but I was living in Massachusetts because that's where I got my degree. And when I moved with whatever fit in my car. And so my apartment came fully furnished, and I'm very, 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 very blessed and thankful for that. And it came with this art on the wall. And when I thought about producing my podcast here and what that was going to look like, I was like, oh, I don't want it to just be like a white blank wall like how this looks, and then just the art, or in just the art hanging in the background. I felt like when it came time for me to cut my shorts, it would look a mess. So I was cleaning my apartment because I'm going back to work, and I really wanted my apartment to just look nice and clean, be ready for like me to go to work and not have to worry about that. But I still wanted my black art. I love my black art, and I'm so blessed and so grateful to be a black woman. So why not showcase my black art? So I decided to put these back up and clean it up, and I like this a lot better. I don't want my LED light anymore, so I love this, and this is how it's going to stay. I want to get some more art so that it eventually will cover this too, but for now, I think that this is cool. I think this is a vibe. But that was part of my weekly check-in, and by the time you see this, I will be in a chair at my job for professional development. Yay! Our school year starts mad early. We start like 2 weeks into August, and so I'm already going back to work in the end of July, so I got like a 6-week summer, and that was pretty much it. I'm ready to go back to work. If you don't know, I taught science for middle school, grades 5 through 6, and now I'm going to be teaching Spanish, which is more aligned with me. Spanish is my first language, and I'll be teaching Spanish grades 5 through 8, and I'm more thrilled about that than anything. I'm ready to go back to work. I like my coworkers. I don't have an issue with them. And despite all the complaining, I actually do like my job. Otherwise, I'd be looking for something else. And so pray for me, y'all, because I still am going to be teaching middle school, and I'm still going to be in the teacher trenches. But that's all I have for a weekly check-in. I had some family friends come to visit me, and so I'm going to do my very best. I'm recording this on Sunday night at 8 o'clock. And I still am going to have to edit it. I was supposed to wash my hair. That's out the window now. So just, pray for me going back to school. Pray for them as they travel back to visit their family. And then they'll eventually travel back up to Massachusetts. And that's all I have for a weekly check-in. But let me know how you're doing. Y'all don't be commenting like that. Like, what's good with that? I'm actually trying to have a conversation. Like, I sit here and talk to myself all the time. Where's the human interaction? Where's the human interaction at? Speaking of prayer, our episode for today is going to be a little bit different. As you guys know, I am on a faith journey. I am a Christian girly, and just because I'm Christian doesn't mean I'm perfect. I also want to just quickly point that out. And so I like to talk about my faith journey from time to time, and I like to talk about how God has brought me through certain things on this journey. And I wanted to bring that to you today. And so our episode is going to be about some scripture. And now I just want to also quickly make this disclaimer that if you are not Christian, you are more than welcome. Please don't feel like you have to leave because I'm going to talk about the Bible. I'm going to talk about Jesus and whatever. If you want to hear what I have to say about that, and how this all ties into like your soft life journey and all that extra stuff, stick around. Like, it doesn't matter if you are trying to figure out what religion you are, if you are not Christian and that you feel like that doesn't identify with you, stay and get this information. Just stay and hear how this may apply to your life. You are welcome here. Everybody is welcome here. Yeah, I think I'm coming down with a cold or something right before I go back to work. But anywho, today we are going to be reading from Matthew 13, and we are going to be talking specifically about how Jesus was rejected in Nazareth. And if you don't know, I'm not an expert, but if you don't know, quickly, Jesus was going to different places to perform miracles and to get them to understand like the Lord is on the earth and he'll be resurrected and all this other stuff. And so he goes back to Nazareth, where he is from, and he gets rejected there. And we're going to read a little bit about his experience and how that has to do with some of the things that we go through here on earth, and how we may be rejected by the people that we know, that we grew up with, and how does that affect our journey, especially if we are trying to achieve a soft life. So let's just go ahead and jump right into the reading. Okay, if you want to follow along or if you want to do some Bible study on your own time, I am reading out of Matthew 13, verses 53 through 58. Jesus was rejected at Nazareth. I always read the NLT, the New Living Translation version, but there's so many different versions. Read the version that applies best to you. I just like this one because it's easier for me to digest. When Jesus had finished telling all these stories and illustrations, he left that part of the country. He returned to Nazareth, his hometown. When he taught there in the synagogue, everyone was amazed and said, "Where does he get his wisdom and his power to do these miracles?" Then they scoffed, "He's just the carpenter's son. And we know Mary, his mother, and his brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. All his sisters live right here among us. Where did he learn all of these things?" They were deeply offended and refused to believe in him. Then Jesus told them, "A prophet is honored everywhere except his hometown and among his own family." And so he only did a few miracles there because of their unbelief. I want to go ahead and quickly break that down and just talk about how sometimes where you are isn't necessarily where you are going to be best received. And what do you do about that? I feel like it's super easy to be discouraged when you are in a place and you're trying to become a better person, or you're trying to pursue a specific purpose or a passion or whatever the case may be. And you have people around you who just do not believe in you, who just reject your dream and don't understand like why you're trying to do that. And how do you best handle that? And of course, it's normal to have feelings. It's normal to be human and be upset or resentful or want to get revenge. But in all honesty, like, if our goal is to achieve a soft life, like, we have to find a better way to be able to acknowledge what we're feeling, right? Because we don't want to dismiss that. What we're feeling is real. But how do we address it in a different way so that it doesn't affect us as a person, and it still allows us to be able to do whatever it is that God has called us to do? So I have a couple of points to debrief what I pulled out from this reading and how I feel like it will really help people along their faith journey, if that's applying to you, or along your soft life journey, and how being rejected sometimes, it doesn't have to stop you. It doesn't have to alter you. It doesn't have to hinder you, because I feel like rejection is so deeply personal, and it's so easy to just put up walls to protect yourself. Nobody likes being rejected. Nobody likes being turned away or unaccepted or not encouraged to do their best or be their best version of themselves. And so how do we handle that when we have the people who are supposed to be closest to us rejecting us? And that may not be everybody's experience, but for you, if it is your experience, how do you handle that, and how do you keep pushing? So my first point is that sometimes your hometown is not where you're going to be best received. And when you decide that you want to become the best version of yourself and who you aspire to be, that may not be the place for you. As somebody who does content creation and would eventually like to do this full time, pouring into people, helping people along their journey, becoming the softest version of themselves, as I struggle in the trenches with you to get to that point in life as well, I hear a lot of people talk about how when they started their content creation journeys, it wasn't the people that was closest to them that was supporting them, that was liking their videos, sharing their videos, whatever. It's always strangers on the internet that are more supportive than the people around them. And then eventually, maybe the people that they grew up with or that they knew come around and they start supporting them now that they got a little bit bigger, now that they have a little more notoriety, quote unquote. And sometimes you're just not going to be received by the people that you know already because they have this image of you that they are more familiar with, and they just can't understand why you want to do this thing or why you want to become this person. And honestly, like, that is okay. You are not living for them to understand why you want to do what you want to do. You're not living to prove to them that you're supposed to be doing this calling, that you're supposed to be walking in this purpose. That is really not for them. That is for you. And if you believe in God, like, that is for you and God to handle for yourself. You are not living for them. You are living for the purpose that you are called to do and for yourself. Okay, the next thing is that sometimes people will hold on to the old version of you that they're familiar with, and they'll reject this new version that they see in front of them because the version that they have of you now, they're unfamiliar with. So sometimes when you grow up around people, they might know the sixth grade version of you, and they don't even know you now that you're 24. But whatever version you were at sixth grade, that's what they have imprinted in their brain. Or they met you when you were 32 and now you're 45. Whatever version that they remember you as, like, that seems to be the thing that is imprinted in their mind. And so when you decide that you want to be a better person, or when you decide that you want to start walking in your purpose, you'll find a lot of people have issue with that, and because they're unfamiliar with that. Like, have you ever heard somebody be like, oh, you switched up, or like, the degree changed you, the money changed you, the new location changed you? Like, that is literally proof that you grew as a person, that you changed as a person, and they are unfamiliar with that. And they're letting you know, like, not only are we unfamiliar with this version of you, we don't like it. We don't want it. We don't care for it. And not only are we going to shame you and blame you for this new version of yourself, but we're also going to blame it on whatever it was that changed you. Oh, you started acting brand new once you started going to church. Oh, you started switching up once you moved to blah, blah, blah. They're letting you know, like, we are familiar with this version of so-and-so. We are familiar with this version of Sabrina. And now Sabrina has changed because she moved to another state, because she started going to church, because she dropped out of Georgetown, whatever it is, right? And because you changed and because you went through this thing, it's wrong. It's wrong, and we don't like it. You let your head get, quote unquote, too big, right? Or maybe you moved, right? You didn't do this in your hometown. Maybe you moved, and then when you came back to visit, oh, you switched up. Oh, you acting brand new now. You know, it's okay, right? I think it's very easy to feel like you have to combat that with attitude, or you have to combat that with disrespect, or you have to combat that with pride. And I'm going to sit up in here and tell you right now, me personally, something I struggle with is the pride, because I worked very hard to get to this place, but also God gave me everything that I needed to be able to get to this place. And without him, I would not even be here. And so I need to also remind myself that I need to humble myself, because yes, I grew as a person. Yeah, I switched up. Yeah, I changed, whatever you want to call it. But if it wasn't for God, if it wasn't for the Lord, I wouldn't be here, number one. And number two, that is just proof to me that I'm walking on the right path, that I am growing, that I am changing as a person, that I am pursuing purpose. And as long as I feel like I'm doing what I'm called to do by the Lord, and as long as I'm getting confirmation in that, people can say whatever they want to say. Because at the end of the day, those words should not affect the way you move. They should not change or alter the way that you move, because you are placed here for a purpose. You have a gift and a talent for a purpose. And these people who are saying you switched up and you changed and your head got too big or whatever, intentionally or not, they are trying to stop you from doing what you're called to do. And you do not want to give that any energy. You can feel your feelings. You can have the emotions. There's nothing wrong with that. But please don't let that one harden your heart and feel like you got to get your get back, and you got to be disrespectful, or you got to be prideful and let them know about them or about where you are, number one. But also, don't let it be a situation where you feel like you also have to hide who you are or become smaller to appease them and to make them feel better about themselves. You shouldn't have to do that either. At the end of the day, we are all on here for our own calling, our own purpose, our own journey, and all the gifts and talents that God has given us are so that we can be able to serve others, but we're not looking for approval from others. And I want to make that very clear. Just because I have a talent to be able to speak well and articulate well and tell a story well doesn't mean that I'm looking for people to approve of my podcast. I don't need their stamp of approval for me to feel like I have to keep making videos, for me to keep feeling like I have to keep making episodes. If somebody's telling me that their life is changing, or they feel validated, or they feel seen, or they feel supported, that is one thing, right? I just want that confirmation from the Lord that you are helping people. I gave you that gift so that you can serve others. I don't care about, like, I don't like your podcast because of your setup. I don't like your podcast because I don't like the sound of your voice. I don't like your podcast because I feel like you switched up and now you feel like you're this big person because you post videos on the internet. I don't care about that. Because at the end of the day, I want to serve the people who need whatever it is that I'm saying on these episodes, whatever topic we're talking about for the week. That's what I'm here for. And you're here for something too. You're here to be able to pour into others too. And it looks different for everyone. The next point I have is that even with rejection, that doesn't mean that you should give up on evolving or pursuing your purpose. You have a talent that God has blessed you with, and you'll find that oftentimes you're more accepted by strangers than by the ones who already knew you your entire life. If you are just naturally good at something, that is a talent or a gift that God has blessed you with, and it's not for you, right? You will be able to reap benefits from your gifts and your talents when you serve others. People who are musically gifted and who create songs that make you feel something, that uplift you, that empower you, whatever the case may be, they have a gift or a talent. They use it to serve you. That's why they make the music for you. And now they get to reap the benefits of whatever that looks like. Maybe it is money. Maybe it's the fact that they are helping people. Maybe it is stability. Whatever it is, because they use the talents that God gave them to serve other people. God has given you something. And there are some people that feel like they have no idea or that they do not have a purpose. Everybody has a purpose, but the only way you're going to be able to figure out what your purpose is if you talk to God. He is the one that created you and created your purpose, and you cannot figure that out without him. And that is something that it took me a long time to understand. Like, yes, I knew that I was a great storyteller, whether that was verbally or whether that was through writing. I knew that I could always tell a good story, but it wasn't until I got connected in my faith that I really understood what that meant to be able to have this gift and talent and what it was for. Like, I used to just write stories because it made me feel good or just to express my pain when I was going through things. But now that I understand, like, all of that pain has a purpose, and all of that skill to be able to write these stories or to be able to tell a good story and give good advice, that is all for a purpose. All those pieces fit together for me to be able to create this podcast that helps people to put out those clips on TikTok that make people feel seen, that make people feel heard, that make people feel valued and appreciated, or that vulnerability that I share on the internet. They can feel that vulnerability. They can be that vulnerability because they see somebody else doing it. My episode where I talked about my polycystic kidney disease, and that clip is still floating around on the internet, and at least every other day I get a comment about somebody saying they just got diagnosed, or a family member got diagnosed, they lost a family member, and thank you so much for sharing this. These are the thoughts that I had. These are the feelings that I had. And none of that would have been possible if I didn't understand my purpose, if I didn't understand my gifts and talents, and if I didn't use them to serve other people. And the people that are commenting on my videos aren't people that I know. I've never met these people. And I'm willing to bet that a majority of them don't even live anywhere near me. And sometimes it takes you leaving where you're from and serving others to be able to realize, like, there's somebody waiting for your gift. There's somebody who needs your gift and your talent, whatever it is that God created you for. And you don't want them to be waiting a long time because the people that you do know, the people that you have seen face to face, are refusing to accept this version of you or the path that you want to go on. My next point is that Jesus didn't give up on performing miracles, but instead he performed a few in Nazareth, where he's from, and then he went on to the next place where he would be accepted and valued. Sometimes God will call you to do a work in a place that you are not going to be accepted in, one that is a test of your faith. Are you still going to do the thing that is challenging even when nobody likes it even when nobody accepts it? Are you still going to post the videos even though nobody is watching right now? Are you still going to perform the sermon even though there's 5 people in the audience right now? Are you still going to do the drawings? Are you still, whatever it is that God called you for, are you still going to do it even though a lot of people are like, whatever, we don't care? That's a test of your faith. That's a test of how are you going to handle your gifts and talents, and also how are you going to handle rejection. But I think the other thing about that too is that even though most of the people in Nazareth rejected Jesus, there were still a few people who believed in him, and he didn't hold a grudge against the few people that believed in him because the majority of them didn't. No, he still performed miracles for the people who did believe in him in that location, and he did what he needed to do. He had to perform those miracles even though he was rejected. It was all for a purpose. He did what he was called to do. And the same thing for you. You're going to be called to do something, and you're going to be called to go places if you're not already there where they are not going to accept you. But you still have to do the thing that God has called you to do, because there is still, even if it's 1,000 people in a room and 900 of those people reject you, those 100 people that are listening, they are locked in, they care, they are invested, they are waiting for you, they need your gift. And so don't let that 100 people miss out on what you're called to do and what they needed from you because the 900 rejected you. That's not fair to them. And not only that, instead of just being like, well, forget it, I'm not gonna perform any miracles anywhere else, Jesus said, all right, I'm going to perform my miracles for the people who genuinely need me, who believe in me. And then I'm going to go about my merry way to the next place where they are going to need me, where they're going to value me, where they're going to believe in me. And the same thing applies to you. You may be called to do something challenging where you live at right now, or this may happen to you in the future. You still push and you still do it anyways, because there's still somebody there that needs you, that still needs your gift. And then when you're called to move on to the next place, you go on and move. You do not hold a grudge against the people who do need you because the majority of them rejected you. That is a disservice to the people who desperately need you, who really need your gift. And you may feel like, oh, I'm just a regular person. I'm just so and so. I'm just not that big a deal. Your gift and your talent isn't for you. It isn't for your validation, and it isn't even for the validation of the other people. It is for the glory of God. And just because you may feel but so big doesn't mean that your purpose can't be so big. And that doesn't mean that just because these people rejected you here doesn't mean that the other people in the next town over need you. It doesn't mean that these 5 people don't need you. So don't feel like you need to give up on your purpose, on your calling, on becoming a better person because the majority of the people that you knew are rejecting you. You will be surprised to find that there are people who will support you, that there are people who need you, there are people who will value you and uplift you and support you along this journey. And you may know their face, you may have never seen their face, you may have never even heard of their name. But at the end of the day, you were created for a purpose, and don't let this rejection from others stop you from fulfilling that purpose. The next point. The people of Nazareth blocked their blessings because they chose to associate Jesus with who they knew him as instead of who he was when he showed up to them. People are going to block a blessing from you because they are refusing to accept this new, quote unquote, version of you, the new version to them, right? So if I go back to my hometown and let's say I get 1 million streams every week, right? If I go back to my hometown, I get 1 million streams and I have a big social media following or whatever the case may be. Somebody is going through a situation and I want to give them advice in my hometown, but they are like, nah, I don't want to take advice from you because you're just the girl who da-da-da-da-da. You're just the girl from da-da-da-da. Like, you're going to block a blessing because you're too busy associating me with who you knew me as X amount of years ago, X amount of months ago, whatever the case may be. And just because I don't look a certain way, right? Jesus was just a plain man, just a regular man. He wasn't somebody who was extremely boastful. He didn't look like he came from a lot of money. He didn't wear these ridiculously fancy garments. No, he was just a regular everyday man. And us as regular everyday people, we may not look a certain way, but we may be able to provide such a blessing to somebody else. But just because I don't look a certain way, you're going to now reject your blessing that could have came through me, that could have came through the next person behind me, just because they're wearing sweats and a t-shirt and then maybe their hair's not done. No. And so it's just like, don't block a blessing because you're too busy associating that person with who you knew them as or who you think you know them as. That's the other thing about social media. It's like, do not let this camera fool you. This is all edited. I can make it look exactly how I want it to. I can cut out every line. I can make it sound completely different if I wanted to. But some people think that just because they know somebody on a screen, that they know them, and now they're gonna block a blessing because, like, oh, well, you do X, Y, and Z on social media, and so no, I don't associate that. Or you look like you have X, Y, and Z amount of money, so how are you gonna tell me about struggling with poverty? How would you even know? How would you even know? So it's just like, don't block your blessings because it didn't look like how you thought it was gonna look, and don't block your blessings because you think you know somebody when you don't know them, especially if these weren't the disciples that were following Jesus and watching him perform these miracles. These were people who saw him grow up. He went about his merry way and lived his life and then came back to them. And they didn't see the journey along the way. They didn't see the other miracles. They didn't see his impact on other people and their belief and how their faith shifted because they were not there with him. There are going to be people that are not on your journey with you that don't understand how you went from A to Z because they weren't with you and they weren't supposed to go with you. Stop trying to bring people that were not supposed to come with you. There's only a small few that are supposed to come with you along the journey, and it's because they started with you at point A and they're going to go with you to point Z, and maybe they meet you along the way at point L or whatever, and then they come back with you still. But you're trying to drag people that are from point A to point Z with you, and they don't want to go. They don't care. Or they started at point A, they see you at point Z, and you come back to the location where you were at point A at, and they're like, I don't care. This is fake. This isn't even who you are. Like, you switched up on us. You changed up on us. You let the blah, blah, blah go to your head. No, stop trying to convince people. Stop trying to drag people to believe and see your journey. They don't want to see it. They don't got to see it. It's not for them. It's not for them. My next point. Your gifts are meant to bless others and you'll need to move forward. You'll have work to do in the location that you are at first, but you need to stick to your assignment even if you are being rejected, and then move to the next place to bless others. So this tied in with another point that I had. Sorry, I have them listed alphabetically here, so I don't even remember. But it looks like it was point C, so the third point that I brought up. Even with rejection, that doesn't mean that you should give up on evolving or pursuing your purpose. So this ties in. You're going to have to stay there for a while. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be painful even. Do what you have to do, because there's still somebody that is waiting for you. I was making episodes back where I was from, and I was struggling with a lot of pain back there, and it was hard. And there were people who are like, bro, why do you sit in front of a camera and just talk to the camera? Why does your background looks like this? You don't make this amount of money or whatever. Are you even making money off of this? It doesn't matter. And it's just like, there are people who are just now seeing those videos and those episodes that I made months ago or even last year, and they're like sending me messages and talking about how I appreciate your podcast and I appreciate your vulnerability and I appreciate and telling me personal stories about themselves. And sometimes you'll still have to do the hard work there, and you may not even see the fruits of your labor until long after you're gone. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to be impactful. You still have to keep going. You still have to keep pushing. All right, my last point for debrief in terms of this scripture, and I know it was a lot, but Jesus replied, this is so important. Jesus replied to the people of Nazareth, a prophet is honored everywhere except his own hometown and among his own family. Because of this, he only did a few miracles and left. He never returned. Jesus understood that the people that he grew up with and who saw him at point A, and now they see him at point Z, they don't accept point Z. They don't like this version. They don't understand how he went from being point A to point Z. And he said, okay, bet. And he didn't waste any time trying to explain it, trying to convince them, trying to argue with them. He didn't hold any grudges. He still did what he came to do, which was to perform those miracles for those who believed in him. And then he left. You need to stop wasting your time trying to convince people, trying to argue with people, trying to get them to understand or to change their mind. That is not your point. You got to acknowledge the situation for what it is, and then you got to keep it pushing. Do what you need to do, and then when it's time to go, you go. And he never returned because one, he knew he was going to be on this planet for a short period of time, and then he was going to be crucified. And he didn't have time to waste arguing with others about, well, why don't you believe? Why don't you believe in me? And trying to convince them. That wasn't his job. And that's the thing you need to understand. That is not your job to try to argue with people, convince them, get them to change your mind. Well, why don't you see this new version of me? Why don't you accept this new version of me? That is not your job to get them to understand. Sometimes you just got to be like, all right, bet. And you keep going about your business, and then you move on to the next place. And if it's on your heart and God tells you don't have to go back, then you don't have to go back. And that's exactly what Jesus did. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your purpose trying to convince other people. Jesus knew that there were other people waiting for him and waiting for his purpose to be able to be saved, to be able to be healed so that they could walk, they could see, they could talk, whatever the case may be. They were waiting for him. He said, I'm not about to waste my time with people who don't believe in me and take away from the others who do believe in me, and now they don't get those miracles and those blessings because I spent too much time here trying to convince these people that don't believe in me. And you need to operate in the same way. Don't spend all this time trying to convince the people that you grew up with that this is who you are now, and this is why they should accept you and embrace you with open arms. Sometimes you just got to say, like, okay, bet. And just be unbothered about it and move on, because there is somebody that is waiting for you in the next place over. It might be the next town. It might be the next state. It might even be the next country. We don't know. And you don't want to take away from those people who've been waiting on you, who've been waiting on your gift, just because the people from back home don't want to accept you. That's not fair to the people that need you. And I just want to say that it is hard to be rejected by the people you grew up with. It is hard to not feel supported by the people that you grew up with and that you've known your entire life. That is challenging, and that comes with a lot of feelings, and it is human to feel like, well, now I got to do this, that, and third. Now I got to prove myself, or now I got to da-da-da-da-da. Now I got to get my get back. No, you don't. No, you don't. And that is something that I struggled with for the longest time. But honestly, me spending all that time and all that energy trying to prove myself to people who don't even understand where I'm at did nothing for me besides drain me. And it made me physically sick. It literally made me so sick. And I was mentally unhealthy because I spent so much time fixating on this one small group of people and trying to get them to understand, because in our mind we believe like they should understand. This is my family, these are my friends, these are the people that I've known for X amount of years. They should be able to accept every version of me wanting to be better. Sometimes that's just not the case, and you don't even got to be resentful of that. You don't have to be angry about that. You don't have to try and convince them of that. Sometimes you just got to be unbothered and be like, it is what it is. And that's okay. Everybody has every right to believe and think whatever they want to think, but I'm not going to let that deter me from what God has called me to do. And you keep going. So please, if I didn't stress it enough, do not waste your time trying to convince people that don't care. They don't care. They don't understand. They don't want to. They just want you to be small and be who they know you as. And you haven't even been that person. How long ago did you leave the 6th grade? And they all they know is the 6th grade version of you. All right, let's shift gears a little bit, because I felt like I was preaching. This must be how the pastors feel at church. But let's go ahead and shift gears and just talk about, how do you keep moving? And how do you keep pursuing the purpose that God has called upon your life, or becoming the version of yourself that you feel called to become, even when you are being rejected, or even when it feels like you can't move? Maybe this isn't your time to move to the next place. Maybe God is calling you to do the hard work right now, here where you are. How do you keep pushing despite the rejection and the pain that comes with? The first point, and again, I'm a Christian girly, but even if you're not and rooted in faith, this is okay. But the first thing is that you need to anchor your identity in God and not people. You are not who people tell you that you are. You are who God says that you are. You are here for a purpose, and you are here and you are created to be made in God's image. And so stop letting people tell you that you're mean, that you're, I try not to curse anymore, so that you're itchy. I had to be in there. Don't let people tell you that you're a version of yourself that you are not anymore. If you have outgrown that, you have outgrown that. And you should not be letting other people dictate and define who you are. They didn't create you, and that includes your parents, okay? They did not create you, and they don't have any room to be able to determine who you are. And I have a little bit of scripture or like a quote that goes with that. And so, when you know who you are in God, rejection doesn't define you, it refines you. Rejection will just tell you what you need to do next. It is protection from a lot of things, and it may not feel like protection in the moment, but if it does not protect you from something, it is redirecting you to something else. It is telling you what you need to tweak a little bit in some cases. So, for example, if you're being rejected in this location, maybe you still have a little bit more work to do, but it's also telling you that you might want to start thinking about where are we going to go next, because we can only do this for so long, and there's work to be done here, but then we need to move to the next place where we can do a better job of what we're doing, or be a better person, be the person that we are called to be somewhere else. The next thing is create emotional and mental boundaries. I've already done an episode on boundaries. I don't remember what it's called, but it's in the title. It literally says something boundaries. So find that so you can learn a little bit more about how you can establish your boundaries. But even if your boundaries cannot be physical, right? Maybe you can't move to another town or another state or whatever the case may be. You need to be able to create these boundaries to protect yourself. And remember, boundaries are essentially saying what you're going to do if somebody does not respect you, not what you want others to do, because you cannot control other people. You can only control yourself. So limit how much you internalize people's words, their opinions, or their doubt about you. Remember, they cannot define you. Only God can define you. God knows what you were created for and who he created. Nobody else knows that. No matter how much people think that they know that, or how much people think that they know you, they do not, and they cannot define you. Make sure, like, if it's social media related or phone related, whatever, you're silencing your phone. You're unfollowing people or unsubscribing from people that do not support you, do not benefit you, whatever. If it's energy draining vibes or people, figure out how you're going to limit your time from them as much as possible. Or if you cannot limit your time because maybe it's somebody you live in the same house with, how are you going to replenish your energy if you cannot limit your time? What are you going to do? Remember that distance doesn't have to be just physical. You can create emotional and mental distance as well, or even spiritual distance, and do that in a healthy way, right? You don't want to build these walls that not only not allow people to come in and disrupt you, but you don't also want to be blocking blessings either. You want to set just enough distance to support yourself and your growth and your ability to walk in purpose and walk in the person that you're supposed to be. But you don't want to harden your heart. You don't want to be disrespectful. You don't want to be rude. You don't want to be angry. You don't want to be any of those things. Just enough space for you to continue to grow, but still have the ability to create a community and to accept love from those who want to be there to support you and who want to be there to uplift you as you go on this journey. It might be time to find a new circle, right? You may not have the best group of people around you, and you don't have to cut them off with this negative energy of like, yeah, I'm cutting you off because da 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 da. It doesn't have to be that way. It could just be like, we're not aligned, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it could even be a slow fade, but don't internalize it as like, well, because you don't support me, I'm going to cut you off and just bump you, this, that, and it doesn't have to be all of that. It really could just be like, we're not aligned. Like, this is the person that I want to become. This is the thing that I am working towards. And we are just on two different wavelengths, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I got to do what's best for me. And if that means that I need to start finding some new friends, if I need to start finding some new internet friends or whatever, or spending some more time with certain people because they are more in alignment with me, then you do that. Sometimes the case is that strangers are going to cheer louder for you than the people that you grew up with. And that can be hard to accept, but that may just be your reality, and take it. My biggest struggle was not letting the strangers clap for me, and even though they were still clapping for me anyways, I was just like, well, why isn't it that my family isn't clapping for me? Why isn't it that these people aren't clapping for me? And why? And I understand. I really do. It is hard. It is painful. And I'm not judging, even though I did that mocking voice. I'm not judging. I completely understand 110%. But stop blocking your blessings. There are other people who are appreciative of the work that you're doing. They see your purpose. They see you walking in that path. They see you becoming that person, and they're cheering for you. And they may not tell you, but they needed you. They needed your message. They needed to see your growth to become the person that they wanted to be and to have that courage. And so stop ignoring the people who are there for you and spending so much time on your knees begging the people who don't care about you to care, or who don't support you to support you. You're putting your energy in the wrong place, and it's draining. And I'm going to tell you right now, as somebody who was in those shoes, it also just, it doesn't do anything for you. It really doesn't. You cannot change somebody's mind. You really cannot. Next tip number 4, document your journey. Sometimes it's honestly difficult to see how much growth you have because you are doing this every single day. You see yourself every single day. You live your life every single day. And so some things may just feel like, well, that's normal. That's how it's supposed to be, whatever the case may be. But you need to start documenting it, whether you are writing it down. Maybe you want to create videos. You don't have to post them, but just see like how much you have grown outside of just living your everyday life. Because, like, for example, I've been lifting weights since like 2018, and it's 2025. 18, 19, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is that, 8 years? I'm not good at math. I'm pretty sure that's 8 years. And I counted on my fingers. And so I've taken pictures probably since about like 2019-ish, when I really started taking like fitness seriously, and to where I'm at now. And I've seen various versions of me. And honestly, like, not only did that show like the progress in my fitness, but it also showed you where I was mentally. When I was mentally healthy, you could see it on my body, and you could see that I was going to the gym consistently and I looked a certain way. When I was mentally unhealthy, I wasn't going to the gym that often, and you could see it on my body. You could see it on my face. You could see it in the way that I ate. You could see it in the way that I just talked every single day, and how I wasn't filled with personality, and I wasn't filled with passion. And it's just like, there were so many waves like that throughout the years where I was training in fitness. And it's just like, now I've gotten to a point where I'm starting to see a more stable and a more consistent version of myself. And it's a good version of myself. It's the version of myself that I want to be and that I want to continue to be, because I've seen those ups and downs for years and years. And I can see when they're happening. I can see when it's coming. And sometimes you don't notice that if you don't look at it, if you don't document it. If I didn't have those pictures and those videos of what I looked like when I started my fitness journey to where I'm at now, and those in-betweens in the middle, I wouldn't notice the pattern at this point, because I live this life every day. I see my body every day, and it's hard to see the changes when you just see it when you're in it every day. Number 5 is, sometimes you gotta serve where you're planted, even if you're uncomfortable. Sometimes you're going to have to keep doing the thing that God called you to do, even if you're uncomfortable, even if you're being rejected, because there is a reason for that. There is a purpose for that. Even though Jesus was rejected in Nazareth, he still performed a few miracles, because there were a couple of people in Nazareth that, despite all the rejection and despite all that peer pressure, they said, nah, I still believe in him, and they were able to get blessed. You might be rejected by a lot of people in your hometown, but there might be a few people that are like, nah, I ride with so-and-so and what they're doing. I ride with the fact that they're becoming this version of themselves. They give me the courage to be able to push myself to become the version of myself that I want to be, or whatever the case may be. They are uplifting our community in this, that, and the third way, and I support that. So sometimes you still got to keep going. You still got to have to keep pushing. You can't just move right away. It may not be your time to move. And even if you try to force it, you may find that that's just not how it's going to work. You may want to be ready to move, but if that's not what God is calling you to do, if he's telling you, no, I get it's difficult, but I need you to stay right here and keep going, you just got to do that. I'm not saying that it's not hard. I'm not saying that it's not challenging. I'm not saying that it's not going to come with pain or trials or tribulations. It is, But that is a testament to your faith, and that's also building character, and that helps you with your gifts, that helps you with your talent, that helps you with your journey, that helps you become the person that you want to be. Next one is stay obedient to the assignment anyways. It's going to get hard. It's going to get challenging. It's going to be difficult. You got to keep going anyways. You are created for a purpose. You are created for an assignment, and God needs you. And the toughest thing that I keep hearing more and more is like, if you don't do it, at some point He's going to call somebody else to do it for you. So it's just like, are you going to be okay with that? Are you going to be okay with the fact that God called you to do something, whether that's content creation, writing a book, becoming a pastor, becoming a doctor, whatever? Are you okay with the fact that if you don't do it and you stay wasting time and procrastinating, that He's going to send somebody else to do it? Are you cool with that? I would personally be butthurt if somebody took my idea for the Hood Soft Life podcast and they had created it themselves. I would have been so sad. And they were flourishing. I would have been so sad because it's like, I got in my own way. I got in my own way when God already gave me everything that I needed. But because things were getting challenging and because I wasn't getting the support that I thought that I wanted, I got in my own way. I would be so salty. The next point, and I have two more. I know this is so long, but reframe rejection as confirmation. When people tell you like, oh, you switched up and whatever, take that as confirmation. Take that as good news. Take that as I am growing as a person. And if they don't like it, there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, if I'm following the path that God called me to, if I'm becoming the person that God called me to be, then I'm doing something right. And this rejection and these hardships and this hurt from other people is a sign that I'm doing something right. And I think that that's the challenging thing about it too, is like when you start doing things the right way, or when you start aligning with your purpose and your passions and your goals and whatever, if they all align under that same umbrella, you will find that you start getting a lot more challenges than you had when you weren't aligning in your purpose, if you weren't walking on your path, if you weren't doing what you were supposed to be doing. And so take all of that as a sign that you are on the right track. And that I can't tell you if it will or if it won't, but it may bring you some relief, and it may make the rejection easier to digest and to take, and to just accept the fact that, hey, I'm not going to be liked by everybody. And there may be people that are salty about the fact that I became a new person, but that is confirmation that I am growing as a person. And my last point is to pray for softness and to pray against bitterness, because it is so easy to be bitter and to be angry and to want revenge and to want to prove your point and to be prideful when the people you grew up with are not supporting you in the way that you thought that they would, that they are not there for you in the way that you thought that they would. It is so easy to fall into that bitterness and to have this hardened heart and to put these walls up and to be like, well, bump you because now I'm gonna It's so easy, and I have fallen for that so many times. So many times. So I completely understand. But at the same time, it's just like, it does nothing for you, because now you're putting all this energy towards negativity and towards people not believing in you. You spend all this time ruminating on that, and how are you going to prove it to them, and When it's just like, why would you want to prove something to somebody that doesn't even understand the path that you're on? Why would you want to prove something to somebody who doesn't even speak the language that you are speaking? That doesn't make any sense. They can't even approve and give their stamp of approval on something that they don't even understand. And you shouldn't be looking for their stamp of approval, because one, they don't understand it. Two, they weren't called to understand it. And three, they did not create you. They did not assign you your purpose. And so they don't get to give a stamp of approval anyway. Stop looking for their approval, because they cannot give it to you. It would mean nothing. It would literally mean nothing. And that is the problem that I struggled with, and that I feel like a lot of people struggle with, is that we give them too much power. We assign their approval too much power. We put it on a pedestal, when in reality, when it's all said and done, whether you're a believer in Jesus Christ or not, they did not create you. They did not assign your purpose. And their approval, their yes or no, is but so minuscule on this planet that it doesn't even matter. Are you walking in purpose? Are you walking in faith? Are you doing what God called you to do? That's the question. You don't need to be worried about that approval with anybody else. And it can be so easy to be so bitter, but instead pray about it, meditate on it, ask for a softer heart, because that allows you to continue to grow, to continue to be there and serve and support the people who need your gift, who need your talent to be able to keep going. There are people that are waiting for you. God didn't create you with this purpose for no reason. If we are all created to be able to serve others and to create disciples of all nations, then why is it that I would be designed with a purpose and it wasn't to support anybody? That would make no sense. We're all here to support and to serve one another. And there are some people that will take advantage of your service, and you need to be able to acknowledge that and just say it is what it is and understand what you need to do next. You might need to draw back or whatever the case may be, but don't hold that bitterness against other people. Don't hold that bitterness against the people who don't believe in you either, because at the end of the day, that is just a mirror and it comes right back to you. Because whether you're in their face showing them that you're bitter or not, you still feel that intense and that internal bitterness. They don't care. They don't feel it. It's not them. They're going to tell you straight up that it's your problem. So don't do it. Pray for a soft heart and just start looking at it as like it is what it is. And there are going to be people who don't appreciate me. There are going to be some people who don't understand me, who don't value me, who don't support me, who don't uplift me on this journey. And that's okay. Because even if they don't support me, if they don't believe me, there are other people who will. And I'm looking for one stamp of approval, and that's from the man upstairs, and that's it. All right, y'all, we've been recording for 55 minutes, so it's time to start wrapping it up because it's already 9:04. So let's go ahead and jump into some shadow work journal prompts for rejection. As always, they will be in the description, but I have 3 for you. And the first one is, what fears do I carry about outgrowing my environment or leaving familiar people behind? Why do you keep trying to bring them with you? That's a question I want you to also think about. Why do you keep trying to bring these people who don't understand you along for the journey? Number 2, where do I feel called to go, but I haven't moved because I want approval first? Number 3, in what ways am I afraid to step into my full purpose because I fear what others will say? All right, y'all, we are at the point where we've reached the affirmation for this week's video. And the affirmation for this week is, I am still chosen, even if people from my past do not choose me. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that 3 times. If you have the ability to close your eyes, close your eyes. If you want to write this down, however you want to speak this positivity onto your life, find a way to do it. And so, I am still chosen, even if people from my past do not choose me. I am still chosen, even if people from my past do not choose me. I am still chosen, even if people from my past do not choose me. All right, y'all, that is all I have for you this week. I would love to hear your thoughts on this week's episode and just the structure of it all. I never want somebody to feel like I am forcing my religion on them, but I'm also not going to hide my religion and my relationship with the Lord either. But let me know what your thoughts were on this week's episode. Let me know what your takes are. And I just want to remind you one more time that you need to pray for that soft heart. Don't let the bitterness steal joy from you. Don't let the bitterness steal your purpose from you, because that's what it'll do. It'll steal from you. It is so easy to want to cuss somebody out. It's so easy to want to get your get back. Don't do it. It's a trap. It's a trap. But with that being said, the Hood Soft Life podcast is on all streaming platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Audible, whatever else there is out there, because I genuinely don't know. We're on all of them. If you are watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Again, please, where are y'all at? I'm tired of talking to myself. If you want to follow us on social media, if you like this personality, if you like the wisdom that I drop every week, you can go ahead and follow us at the HSL Pod, both on Instagram and TikTok. I will be fully transparent and let you know that IG, it's not popping. That algorithm sucks. And so it is a little challenging to be consistent on there, but I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep trying my best. TikTok is where it's at. TikTok is where people actually comment. We can build a community. So I would love to see you on there, and pray for me again, because I go back to work. By the time you see this, I'll be at work. So just pray for me. If you want to see a little bit of that lifestyle of like being a teacher, balancing content creation, I also produce a podcast for somebody else now. So I am very, very busy. You can follow my personal pages at Sabrina, SabrinaaA.Lizet, Sabrina Lisette on IG and TikTok. And one more time, if you are on audio platforms, rate us 5 stars. Let me know. If there's something you don't like, give me the constructive criticism. But I know for a fact I'm not producing anything that is beneath 5 stars. I'm working very hard for you, to uplift you, to support you, to be there for you, to use my gifts and talents to serve you. And so I think I'm done. And I think I am very tired because I'm rambling on, and it's 9 o'clock and I have to be up early in the morning. So I'm going to just say bye, and I will see you in next week's episode. Bye.